Hello everyone and welcome back to Age Nagash, which channel dedicated to Age Sigmar, and in this video we're going to be returning back to the Maggotkin of Nurgle in the Army Archive series. And this is going to be the first video looking at their units, and the first ones we're going to concentrate are going to be the Rotbringers. So in this video we're going to be talking all about the Rotbringers as part of the Maggotkin of Nurgle army. And the interesting thing about the Rotbringers is that they only have like 2 units that are not heroes as far as I'm aware. So it's a majority a hero based army. However, as you would normally mix them in with a few demons, stuff like that. But what is really quite cool is that you can make a really sort of elite sort of mortal army with the Maggotkin of Nurgle like Rotbringer force, which is quite cool. So the first thing we're going to look at are the Putrid BLIGHTKINGS. So these are quite nice models, quite unique. If you see a lot of Nurgle armies on the table, most of them are going to have these BLIGHTKINGs in them, especially if they go on the mortal side. So they are minimum size unit of 5, max size unit of 20. They are 160 points for 5 and 580 points for 20. So you are going to get yourself a discount there. And they're also battle line if the army has the Nurgle allegiance. So you don't even need to make a certain hero a general. They are just going to be battle line throughout the Maggotkin of Nurgle allegiance. And when I say Maggotkin of Nurgle, it just says Nurgle allegiance. So it's got quite a lot to play with there, which is very nice to see. And going into it, let's have a look at their war scroll. So looking at the description first, the unit of Putrid BLIGHTKINGS has 5 or more models armed with a variety of filthed, encrusted, blighted weapons. Okay, so first thing there, if you get your box of Putrid BLIGHTKINGS, you open them up and you see there's loads of different weapon options. Don't worry, they can all be used. There's only one weapon profile. Don't worry about that. It's not like I'll have to choose between this and that. Don't worry, they all have the same weapon profile. Okay, so going into their will stats, we've got a 4-inch movement, 4+ save, bravery 8, and 4 wounds. Okay, so something to mention, 4+ move, not good at all. However, there are other things in this book that help your movement out. And at the end of this video, we're going to be looking at certain things that the demons and Nurgles have that actually benefit the Rotbringers as well. So we'll look at that at the end. And one of those things is a bell, which Great on Cleveland has, that pluses 3 inches to a movement for Nurgle units. So these guys would actually have a movement of 7 instead. Okay, and the save 4+, yeah, that's good. Bravery 8, yep. 4 wounds, yep, that's good. 4 wounds for an infantry model. Bear in mind that's like the size of an ogre or a cryptor or a crypt flare. Something on that size for a Putrid BLIGHTKING is pretty damn good, in all honesty with you. So looking at their weapons, they only have 1, and it's a melee weapon, so a blighted weapon. So 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3 hit, 3 to wound, no rend, 1 damage. Not great, but not too bad. However, we'll get to why that is good in a moment. Okay, then looking at their abilities, we've got a Blightlord. So the leader of this unit is a Blightlord. A Blightlord has wound characteristics of 5. Okay, so just remember, obviously, that's quite a unique thing to have for a champion of a unit. Usually they give you like an extra attack, +1 to hit. He's actually got an extra wound, so just make that quite clear, you know, to your opponent and stuff, which one's the champion beforehand, so you know about allocating wounds. Okay. The next thing we've got are icon bearers. So icon bearers models in this unit can be icon bearers. Add 1 to the unit's bravery characteristic while it includes any icon bearers. Okay, so add 1 to the bravery 9, cool. And then the next thing is Sorcerer's Tactician. So models in this unit may carry a Sorcerer's Tactician. Okay, that is basically just the musical instrument. Oh, I'm not pronouncing that word again. Add 1 to the unit's run and charge rolls while it includes any models carrying a musical instrument. Right, and then their main abilities, we have Virulent Discharge. And Virulent Discharge is something we're going to see a lot on these war scrolls. So I'm just going to talk about it once now, and then I won't be referring to it really again. I won't just repeat myself. So Virulent Discharge. So in your hero phase, roll a dice for each unit, friend or foe, that's within 3 inches of any friendly units. With this ability, on a 6+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If the unit has the Nurgle keyword, heal D3 wounds allocated to the unit instead. Okay, that's good. You need to roll on a 6+, so got 1 in 6 chance of happening. However, like I say, I think most things in your army have this ability, especially for the Rotbringers. So that means out of 6 of your units should be able to get off once, which is cool. And roll a dice for units, you know, that are within 3 inches of this ability. It can be friend or foe, so that does also affect this model as well. So you got a chance to heal, you know, the Putrid BLIGHTKINGS. And usually with infantry, you think healing like wounds to them doesn't really make too much difference because they haven't got too many wounds. However, these guys, like we said, have got 4 wounds. Okay, and then why are the weapons for the BLIGHTKINGS quite famously known in Age of Sigmar? And that is because of their blighted weapons. And this is each time you make a hit roll of a 6+ for this unit's blighted weapon, that hit roll inflicts a d6 hits instead of 1. And the reason why this is really good is bear in mind each one of these is making 3 attacks. So if you have a unit of 10 Putrid BLIGHTKINGS, and let's say for argument's sake they can all attack, you're really looking at a 30 attack from these Putrid BLIGHTKINGS. Bear in mind each 6+ is going to do d6 hits. Yeah, that is pretty damn good. It's like the Sinesh Allegiance ability, however, specifically for the BLIGHTKINGS, it's just like, fuck you Sinesh, we're getting a d6 extra hits instead of an extra 1. Okay, so this is good. The only issue with this though is on a 6+. Now yes, that does mean if you get pluses to hit, you can trigger this off easier, you can generate crazy amounts of hit rolls for your opponent. However, what the main problem with 6+ to hit is that the enemy can make you so many ways more minus to hit than you can make pluses to hit, that it really is a balance in your opponent's favour depending on what army they've got. And that's something I'm going to look into in a future video, because I've always talked about why a modified 6 is better than a 6+ to hit, and I think it might be worth doing a video on it, because naturally when you see 6+ you think, oh that's good because then I can get pluses to hit and it can do this, that and the other and trigger really easily. However, with all the monsters there are to hit out there, like there's a crazy amount these days from loads of different places. It's not just, oh, it's just a few units like that one and that one. Like at the start of Age of Sigmar, like thinking a few of them, you know, you've got the netters for the Gloomspite Gits, stabbers, you've got things like Neferata, you've got, I think the Mongol made you -1 to hit. You know, like there was a few specific things that can make you -1 to hit, you know, some Nurgle stuff as well. And now it's just, no, there's not just a few examples, there's just loads of things most armies can do it. And if you can't, there's like usually spells that can make you -to hit. So that's the only problem with this. However, when they do get an update, Maggotkin of Nurgle, or I don't know, in a future FAQ or something like that, I'm sure they're going to make those 6+s unmodified 6s. But for now, you know, don't get me wrong, if you play against an enemy army that don't have any way to make you -to hit, happy days. But that's just one thing that is to mention. Keywords, they've got a Chaos Mortal, Nurgle, Rotbringer and Putrid BLIGHTKINGS. And my summary of the Putrid BLIGHTKINGs are, bear in mind they are like really the only sort of, you know, Rotbringer battle line option you have got for your army, you know, without going into, you know, the demon stuff. If you want to basically make a really, really themed army, I mean, you can also got the Pusgoyle BLIGHTLORDS, which we'll look into a moment, but they need a certain hero to be the general, essentially. Putrid BLIGHTKINGs aren't bad, especially you taking certain battalions. You can really make the most out of them. You can really buff them up, and you can take a crazy amount of them. I sort of look at them a little bit like Brutes for Iron Jaws. Now, with the Brutes for Iron Jaws and just Iron Jaws in general, I haven't looked at them too much since the new General's Handbook, because I know they've got better. But like the Putrid BLIGHTKINGs, they feel that sort of roll. They're just going to hit you hard, really hard, in your face. And if the enemy hasn't got very good save rolls, they're going to take so much hurt. Because if you first look at them, they haven't got any remnants, 1 damage, doesn't seem that amazing, and only 1 inch of range. However, with the extra d6 hits they can get, you could make a huge dent in the enemy's army for just your battle line units. And yes, they are expensive battle line, but they are still quite good. Obviously, if you want to take a different sort of mortal battle line, you've also got access to all this starting and stuff, so just bear that in mind as well. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at are the Pusgoyle BLIGHTLORDS, like I've just mentioned. So, Pusgoyle BLIGHTLORDS, firstly, they come in miniature units of 2, maximum units of 20, and they are 220 points for 2 of them. They are the guys flying on the plague drones, and they are battle line if the army has the Nurgle Legions and the general is a Lord of Afflictions. So they can be battle line, just bear in mind that the Lord of Afflictions will have to be your general. Okay, so the Pusgoyle BLIGHTLORDS, so their war scroll is a bit bigger than you would expect for the Putrid BLIGHTKINGs, and that's because the Pusgoyle BLIGHTLORDS have got quite a bit more going on. Okay, so looking at their description, it says a Pusgoyle BLIGHTLORDS has any number of models. The rot flies stab the enemies with venomous stingers and bite with foul mouthparts. Their Blightlord riders attack using a variety of filth-encrusted blighted weapons. Up to half of the models in this unit can be armed with a weighty bell known as a Dulus Tuscan. Obviously pronounced that wrong. In addition to their other weapons. Okay, so going into their will stats. So we've got an 8-inch movement, which is good. Bear in mind that they are flying unit. It's quite slow for a flying unit. Just bear that in mind. However, like I said before, there are ways for you to get extra to your movement, stuff like that, through the bell for the Great Unclean one, and also for the cycle corruption, you have that way to get the extra movement there as well. Okay, and then the rest of the will stat, they've got a 4+ save, bravery 8, 7 wounds. 7 wounds, yep, that's good. That's very tanky, especially bear in mind you've got 2 in this unit. 4+ save, yeah, like I said, it's good. Bravery 8, yep, nothing wrong with that at all. And then looking at their melee weapons, so they have got the blighted weapons, and this is exactly the same characteristic for the Blight Kings. That is 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3 hit, 3 swing, no render, 1 damage. And Dulus Tuscan, which is a 1-inch range, 1 attack, 4 hit, 3 swing, -2 rend, and 2 damage. So yep, that's nice. Not as many attacks as the other one, but -2 rend, 2 damage is good. Getting through armor. And then we've got Foul Mouthparts, which is 1-inch range, 2 attacks, 3 hit, 3 swing, no rend, 1 damage. And the Venomous Stinger, which is a 1-inch range, 1 attack, 4 hit, 3 swing, -1 rend, and D3 damage. So that's quite nice there as well. Okay, and then going into the abilities, we've got Disgustingly Resilient. So roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a model in this unit. On a 5+, the wound is negated. Now, we're also going to see this a lot come up in the rest of the War Scrolls, so only sort of talk about it here. But that is very good. That's not just giving you a death save, that's giving you a 5-up death save. And that's generically across the board with a lot of this stuff. That's really, really good. If you play 40k, it's very much like your Nurgle, and that, of course, being your death guard. So you've got there, nice connection there. Also, there's other ways for you to get like mortal wound saves, you know, like ward save sort of things for your Nurgle stuff on top. So it just gets even more crazy. Like if these guys are next to Mystical, that's a 5-up save they get in after damage. For also the main thing here is wounds and mortal wounds, what makes a huge difference. So they get, let's say they're next to mystical terrain and within the range that is required for it, I believe it's 1 inch, and that will give them an extra 6-up save. So they'll have their normal save, which is a 4-up, and then their Disgusting Resilience, which is a 5+, and then a 6-up. And then they have a lot of ways to heal as well. I have fought against Nurgle several times in tournaments, and it can be very infuriating trying to actually kill them. Now, that's a bit hypocritical of me, because I do often take death to tournaments, and when I say often, I mean I've only taken death to tournaments. And yeah, when you take Fleshly Court, you go, oh, so you killed like 5 4-win models, they're all back. Yeah, very hypocritical of me, but that's why it's so good. That's why, you know, having your army so resilient, you know, disgustingly resilient, you could say, makes a huge difference. Okay, so looking at the next ability, which is Violent Discharge. And again, this is a way for you to heal D3 wounds to friendly Nurgle units within 3 inches, or do D3 mortal wounds to enemy units within 3 inches, but on the rolls of those 6s. Okay, and then we've got Blighted Weapons. So that's the same for the Putrid BLIGHTKINGS. And that's, you know, when you roll a 6 to hit, a 6+ that is, you generate D6 hits instead of 1. Okay, so that are the Pusgoyle Blightlords. Looking at the keywords, they've got Chaos Mortal Demon, Nurgle Rotbringer, and Pusgoyle Blightlords. So they are pretty nice. They are expensive though. They are particularly expensive, so just bear that in mind. And where would you compare them? So if you wanted to compare them to the Putrid BLIGHTKINGS, you could do the Pusgoyle Blightlords. They're more versatility. They can do more things. They've got better movement. Their movement is twice that of the BLIGHTKINGS, and they've got more going on. They are more capable. Like I said, they're more versatility. They're more better at getting to objectives, all these sorts of things. But Putrid BLIGHTKINGS are going to be better at holding them. And I say that, I mean, your Blightlords, they've got that disgusting resilience, which the BLIGHTKINGS don't. However, the BLIGHTKINGS, just the amount of wounds you're going to be putting on things, because they come in minimum size units of 5, obviously, and even just 5 models is 20 wounds, which is massive. Yeah, so we're looking at them. The Blight Kings are going to be better overall, I would say. If I was doing Rotbringers, I would go BLIGHTLORDS just because I think their models are awesome. And that's enough of a reason for me to want to do them. And their rules aren't bad. So, yeah, that's up to you. Putrid Blight Kings overall, I'd say are better. Yeah, definitely. Just for the amount of attacks you can do. But it's nice to see that the BLIGHTLORDS have the same weapon to be able to generate those extra hits on 6+s, which is nice to see it transferred over there. Okay, then moving on to our next units. So we are going to be looking at firstly the Lord of Plague, shall we? So he's going to cost you 140 points, and obviously he's a leader. Going into his war scroll for the Lord of Plague. So the description of Lord of Plagues is a single model. He wields a plague-ridden great blade. And his will stats, 4-inch movement, 4+8, bravery 9, 7 wounds. That's all good. Then going into the melee weapons, so we've got plague-ridden great blade, 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend, and D3 damage. So not too bad there either. Going into the abilities, we've got Wanton Slaughter. So reroll hit rolls are 1 for friendly Putrid Blight King units while they are within 7 inches of this model. Okay, so this is why you're going to want to take this guy. Obviously, your Putrid Blight Kings, they just go together. I know people have been running Nurgle for a while and been taking Blight Kings. These two always go together, essentially. As long as you can obviously squeeze them to the list, which, in 2,000 point list, which is the most common way people play Age Sigmar, is more than easy enough achieved. Then we have a Rotten Corpse Mulch. So a roll a dice after this model makes its attacks in the combat phase and add the number of wounds inflicted by this model and which were not saved or negated to the dice roll. If the total is a 6+, you immediately receive 1 contagion point. Cool, bear in mind his attacks are quite good, so that's a fairly easy way to get a contagion point. Obviously this guy's just going to get into combat to be able to do so. Then we have Plague Ridden Great Weapon. Each time you make a hit roll for a 6+ for this model's Plague Ridden Great Blade, that hit roll inflicts a d6 hits instead of 1. Bear in mind you're going to be making 3 attacks. You've got a fairly good chance of getting it. Now, you've still got to be lucky, but it's not impossible. It's not like you got 1 attack and you need to get 6 to hit. So yeah, you've got a fairly not too bad chance of getting it with 3 attacks there. Yeah, and essentially his weapon is the same as the Blight Kings, but obviously it's a better damage and it's got actual ring capture, which is nice. And then the command ability, Grandfather's Gifts. You can use this command ability in your hero phase. If you do so, pick an enemy unit within 20 inches and roll 7 dice. That unit suffers 1 mortal wound for each roll of a 6+. Okay, first of all, I'll say that command ability is not particularly good, especially with other things you've got, and in particular in this book. However, well, that command ability could be useful if you've got a spare command point and you really need to kill the thing you're in combat with. Let's say this guy's stuck in combat with 2 1-wound models. You really need to kill, or just literally a hero left on 2 wounds, something like that, and you just need to kill them. And you haven't got an arcane bolt, you have got no other ways you can do it in that hero phase. This is an option, and by killing that one thing you're stuck in combat with, it means that he can then run off, charge something else, and capture an objective. Maybe that's quite, a unique, scenario, but when you get into battle plans, get into, the later turns, it's all about movement. So anything that can help free him up at the start of the turn so he can move again later could be really useful. I'd say the majority of the game, not useful, but for when those Pacific moments come, this thing can be invaluable, especially if you only need to do 1 more wound to the enemy, and the chances are you will be doing 1 mortal wound with those rolls. Going to keywords, got Chaos Mortal, Nurgle, Rotbringer, Hero, Lord, or Plagues. So, in summary, if you're taking Blight Kings in your army, take the Lord of Plagues, without a doubt, because his abilities for reroll hits of 1 for friendly Putrid Blight King units while they're in 7 inches of this model. That's not wholly within 7 inches, that's just 7 inches, so it can work for your big units. And rerolling those hit rolls of 1s. Remember, you get a 6 to hit. That's what you need for the Putrid Blight Kings. If they're not getting any 6s to hit, if you're really unlucky, they're not worth their points. If you get those 6 to hit, they really are. And by just increasing your chances to be able to do that is a no-brainer, really, if you want to go Blight Kings. Make sure you take the Lord of Plagues for sure. Just some thing to note though, just so you guys are aware, the Pusgoyle blightlords that have like the blighted weapons as well would not be affected by the Lord of Plagues, because the Lord of Plague specifically only affects Putrid BLIGHTKINGS. Okay, it's not the weapon, it's the BLIGHTKINGS themselves. Right, okay, then going on to the next one we're going to look at, and that is going to be the Lord of Blights. So the Lord of Blights is obviously going to be a leader in your army for you know, your Maggotkin of Nurgle. It's going to cost you 140 points, the same points as the Lord of Plagues. So let's see what we're getting here. You know, same points value means they're quite nice to compare against each other. So the description: Lord of Blights is a single model. He hurls a thrice-ridden death head at the enemy and hands out lesser modification bounty death heads for his minions to use. Don't really know what I just read there. Okay, in the combat phase, he smashes the foe to the ground with his bibonetic hammer, while fending off their return blows with his vermid shield. So going into his wheel stats, got 4 inch movement, 4+ save, bravery 9 and 7 wounds. Something I want to note here about a lot of the stuff we're looking through so far for the Rotbringers. Their bravery is really solid. I don't think it'll be this good, so that is really nice. Okay, so going into their missile weapons, so this guy has got 2. He's got the thrice-ridden death heads and the multiplication bounty death heads. So the first one, so this is the thrice-ridden, has a 14-inch range, 1 attack, 3 to hit, 3 to win, -3 rend, D3 damage. And then the next one is the bounty, and that is 14-inch range, 1 attack, 4 to hit, 3 to wound, no rend and 1 damage. So obviously the first one's better, but there must be a reason why the other one is weaker. Going into the melee weapons, he's got 1, and that's the bibonetic hammer. So it's got 1 inch range, 3 attack, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend, and 2 damage. Nice attacks this guy's got, especially a -3 rend from a shooting attack. That is very nice. Okay, going into his ability, so we've got the multiplication bounty. So at the start of your shooting phase, you can pick one friendly Putrid BLIGHTKINGS unit that is within 3 inches of this model. That unit can shoot in that shooting phase using the multiplication bounty death head missile weapon shown above. So there's 2 different ways you can interpret this. Is that unit gets 1 attack with this collectively, or is it each model in that unit gets an attack? Because if it's collectively, it's not good. If it's every model in that unit, even if you've just got 5, that's really good. Compared to, because the thing about a shooting attack is being able to eliminate things that you can't get to, and Nurgle don't have too much shooting, so it's a way you can use that. And if each one of them can get it, you've got unit 10, that's absolutely massive. But I don't know, there might be an FAQ somewhere. If there is, please let me know down below, and then we can all learn and sort of understand from that, as I think there could be some confusion there. Okay, the vermid shield in the combat phase, reroll save rolls are 1 for this model. That's good, as that means you're getting a free mystic shield. Okay, and then going into his command ability, so Plague of Flies. You can use this ability in your hero phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Nurgle unit within 21 inches until your next hero phase. Subtract 1 from hit rolls of attacks that target that unit in the shooting phase. If the unit contains 20 or more models, subtract 2 from the hit rolls of attacks that target that unit in the shooting phase, and 1 from hit rolls that target that unit in the combat phase instead. Okay, so you can do this on your BLIGHTKINGS, make them pretty good, even more tough to get rid of. And also, a lot of people put this on their Plague Bearers just to make them really incredibly hard to kill, which is going to be an absolute pain to try and deal with. But if you want to stay away from the demons, you want it to be focused on mortals, put them on your Slate of Darkness Chaos Warriors. That can make them very durable and really hard to get rid of, especially if you had like a unit of 20 or 30. I don't know why you'd have a unit of 30 Chaos Warriors. I mean, they'd be absolutely amazing for holding an objective, but if you happen to play a game that has 8 objectives, then it's a bit hard, isn't it, to try and make them be worth their points at that point. But what I'm trying to say is that you can make them really, really tough and still keep within the mortal theme if you don't want to go for demons. So that command ability is very good. It's better than the last one we looked at for the Lord of Plagues. So the keywords for the Lord of Blights. So Chaos, Mortal, Nurgle, Rotbringer, Hero, and Lord of Blights. And now to compare the Lord of Blights to the Lord of Plagues. Now, the Lord of Plagues, if you're taking a lot of BLIGHTKINGS, take the Lord of Plagues. Definitely, there's no reason why you shouldn't take the Lord of Blights as well. But if you've only got room for one of them in your army, and you haven't got too many Blight Kings, you're not really focusing on them, the Lord of Plagues is not going to be as useful to you as the Lord of Blight overall. But like I say, most cases you can fit both of them in, but if you can't, take Lord of Blights generically. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is going to be, of course, the very handsome chap himself, which has to be Gutrot Spume. So he has a points cost of 140 points, and he is a unique character, so you can only have one of them in your army. And of course that also means he can't have a command trait or an artifact. But let's get in to see what he does. So description. So Gutrot Spume is a single model. He is armed with a Rotpoxed axe and grasps at his foes with a mass flailing tentacles, which is actually quite funny because there's a nice rule about that. It makes him very fun to take. And then looking at his wheel stats, he's got a 4-inch movement, a 3+ save, a bravery 9, 7 wounds. That's all good there. Save of a 3+ is very good indeed. Looking at his melee weapons, so he's got 2. So he's got the Rotpoxed axe, which is 2-inch range, 4 attacks, 3 to hit, 2 to wound, -1 rend, 2 damage. Very nice. The flailing tentacles is a 1-inch range, D3 attacks, 2 to hit, 4 to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. 2 to hit is very nice there. Going into his abilities, we've got Clutching Pessapods, can't pronounce that word. At the start of your combat phase, you can pick an enemy model within 1 inch of Gutrot Spume and choose a melee weapon carried by that model and roll a dice. On a 4+, that weapon can no longer be used by that model in that combat phase. Okay, so only lasts that combat phase, but that is hilarious to do that to your opponent, as I found out in a tournament when I had one Morbidex Archai against Gutrot Spume. I thought my Morbidex Archai, he can take him out, you know, being all confident, and then Gutrot Spume just took away my one big spear from my Archai, and then my Archai had no combat weapons, and then Gutrot Spume smashed his head in. So yeah, it did massively backfire on me because I was unaware of that. If you play with Maggotkin of Nurgle and your opponents aren't aware of this, you can really have some good fun. And even when they become aware of it, you can really have some more fun by making your opponent scared to go near him, knowing that it's only on a 4-up, but you could take away their big and nasty weapon, the Slayer of Kings, Nagash's sword, a Bloodthirster axe. All these different things that are high damage weapons can just be taken away on a 4-up. It's not right for the rest of the battle, as I think that would be OP, but how it stands, it is very funny. Okay, and then we've got Towering Arrogance. So reroll hit rolls of 1 for Gutrot Spume if the target is a hero. In addition, if Gutrot Spume is within 3 inches of an enemy hero in the combat phase, he cannot target units that are not heroes. Okay, so it seems good. It's a double barrel, isn't it? It seems good because it's got the rerolls to hit rolls of 1, targeting heroes, which is good. But if you're within 3 inches of other units, including hero, you have to attack heroes. So it's good, but you know, it has got a side effect to it. Right, okay, and the next one we've got is Master of Slime and Fleet. So instead of setting up Gutrot Spume on the battlefield, you can place him and up to 1 unit of Putrid BLIGHTKINGS to one side and say they are aboard his flagship. If you do so, at the end of your first movement phase, set up Gutrot Spume and a unit of Putrid BLIGHTKINGS within 6 inches of each other, hold within 6 inches of the edges of the battlefield, and more than 9 inches from enemy models. So, yep, that's good. It's a way for you to be able to deep strike. It's not always going to be the best scenario all the time, because when you deep strike, then it's quite slow, because you're not going to be in range of that bell from the Great Unclean One and other things. But if you want to deep strike against the enemy, give them a bit of a shock, that sort of thing, you can do it. And it's another reason to take Blight Kings in your army and to take Gutrot Spume, as Gutrot Spume, the Lord of Plagues, and the Blight Kings obviously go together, but the Lord of Plagues can't teleport in as Gutrot Spume does. So going into his keywords, so he's got Chaos, Mortal, Nurgle, Rotbringer, Hero, and Gutrot Spume. So yeah, Gutrot Spume, he's nice, especially for a named character. A lot of named characters you get are just not worth taking in Age of Sigmar. Sadly, that's how it works. But with this guy, he has got a purpose and he has got a point. This is what I do like about him, and he's survivable. And you can really have some good fun with your opponent with him. And then moving on to the Harbinger of Decay, it's going to cost you 160 points, and it's a leader, of course. So looking at his description, a Harbinger of Decay is a single model. He wields a plague scythe and carries a rot-worn, soul-bound shield. His disease-ridden demonic mount spreads corruption and foulness with its fly brown bite. Okay, so looking at his wheel stats, we have got a 7-inch movement, a 4+ save, bravery 8, 7 wounds. Would like maybe a bit more movement, bear in mind that he's mounted. However, the horse is sort of falling apart, so yeah, it kind of makes sense. Going into the melee weapons, we have got Plague Scythe, which is 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3 hit, force a wound, -1 rend, 3 damage. Yeah, right. And we've got demonic mounts, fly blown bite. So we have got 1-inch range, D6 attacks, force hit, force a wound, no rend, 1 damage. Obviously, if you get lucky in that D6, not too bad, pretty good. If you get unlucky, then it's a pretty bad attack. Okay, and then we go on to the abilities. So the Soulbound Shield. So roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this model as the result of a spell. On a 4+, the wound is negated. So basically a 4+, disgustingly resilient against spells. Right, and then the next ability is the Rot Sword. So once per battle at the start of your hero phase, pick an enemy hero within 1 inch of this model and roll a dice. On a 2+, that hero suffers D3 mortal wounds. On a 4+, that hero suffers D3 mortal wounds. And each other enemy unit within 7 inches of the hero suffers 1 mortal wound. Not a bad ability, because you know it's almost a guaranteed D3 mortal wounds to that hero. However, it's only once per game, once per battle. So yeah, it's not really that good, to be honest. And then going on to the command ability, we have got the Morbid Vigor. So you can use this command ability in your hero phase. If you do, then until your next hero phase, roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a friendly Nurgle mortal unit while they are within 7 inches of this model. On a 5+, the wound is negated. Okay, so I was going to say, what is the point of taking this guy? Cool model, but what is the point? However, there you go. That is the command ability you would like, as that can give you an other disgusting resilient save, like I say. So that means that you've got that disgusting resilient, so a 5+, and you've got this command ability, which is a 5+, and then you've got, let's say you're near mystical, that's a 6+. So let's just say your BLIGHTKINGS, for an example, they've got 4+ save. Say the enemy attacks them, don't have any rend. They have a 4+ save, and then a 5+ save, and then a 5+ save, and if they're near mystical, then a 6+ save. And you've got a lot of ways to heal. That is literally disgusting. So yes, that is, but the question is, so what you're looking at is he's 160 points, and he's really just there for that command ability, if I'm honest. That's the best thing about him. So that command ability is going to cost you command points, that's 50 points, and then him, that is 160, so that's going to come to 210 points really to get that off. It's not bad, it's just a question if you can fit it in your list. If you can fit it in your list, fantastic, but I know if I was building a 2,000 point list, and let's say I was quite tight for points towards the end, if something had to make the cut, it would maybe be this. But interesting to hear what you guys' thoughts are if you want to let me know down below. Right, okay, and those keywords are Chaos Mortal, Demon, Nurgle, Rotbringer, Hero, and Harbinger of Decay. What I will say is a really nice model, and I have seen some really nice conversions for him. The next one we're going to look at is going to be the Sorcerer. So, it's going to cost you 120 points, so cheaper than the other heroes we've looked at. Its description is a Sorcerer is a single model armed with a Rotwood staff. So it's got a 4-inch movement, 5+ save, 7 bravery, 6 wounds. Okay, so standard there apart from the 6 wounds is nice, makes him a bit more beefier. And going into his melee weapons, he has got traditionally 1 for the wizard, so that is a Rotwood staff, 2-inch range, 1 attack, force hit, 3 swim, -1 rend, D3 damage, standard wizard staff attack. Going into his abilities, so we have got Blessed with Vitality, so roll a dice each time this model successfully casts a spell and it is not unbound. On a 4+, you can heal 1 wound that has been allocated to this model. So that's a nice way for this model to be able to heal up when the enemy tries to peck, wounds away from it, just chucks light shooting at it, or just a couple of attacks, something like that, to gradually kill it. This guy can, on a fairly easy basis, get back his wounds. So going into a magic, so a sorcerer is a wizard, no surprise. He can attempt to cast 1 spell in your hero phase and attempt to unbind 1 spell in the enemy hero phase. He knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Stream of Corruption spells. So, Stream of Corruption. Stupid Corruption has a casting value of 6 of successfully cast. Pick an enemy unit that is within 7 inches of the caster and is invisible to them. That unit suffers 3 mortal wounds. Okay, so the only negative thing about this is it has to be within 7 inches. Now the good news, it's not wholly within 7 inches like we've seen in a lot of this book. The wholly within didn't really come into place in this book so much. So there's that. Also, the casting value of 6, you're going to get it the majority of the time. That's not including enemy unbinding. On your standard 2d6 of a roll, your average get a 7. So you should get this most of the time. And if this is what you are casting with this guy, then it means that it's not going to be too hard for him to heal back that wound on that 4+ because he successfully cast a spell. Now, the other good thing about having a wizard like this, because it's pretty cheap, is that you can cast a spell to be able to change the Wheel of Corruption, which I talked about in that video. And also, it's a other wizard that has access to those lore spells, which I've talked about in the last video I did for Maggotkin Of Nurgle. If you haven't seen that one already. Okay, then going into keywords, he's got Chaos Mortal, Nurgle, Rotbringer Hero, Wizard and Sorcerer. So 120 points. There used to be a time in Age of Sigmar where a wizard that was 100 points was sort of cheap, but getting, you know, up to a sort of expensive price. But now 120 points for a wizard is not that expensive anymore. There's a lot of wizards now that are like 140 points compared to used to be like 100 points. I know you've got like Gutrot wizards and stuff that are obviously a lot cheaper than that, but they don't really have too much of availability for that in Maggotkin Of Nurgle. I mean, I'm sure you can ally with Beasts of Chaos for sure. However, just bear in mind that as they're not Nurgle, they won't get access to the lore spells. Saying that though, as there are different war grows within Beasts of Chaos, there is a Nurgle one, so it'll be interesting to see. I'll look into it to see if you can actually take that within his army. I'll look into that as well. It's an interesting thought. But anyway, so moving on. The next one we are going to look at is going to be Festus the Leechlord. So, as expected, Festus the Leechlord, of course, he's a leader, and he is also going to be a named character because, you know, he's Festus the Leechlord, what do you expect? And he's going to cost you 140 points. So, the standard sort of pricing for heroes we've seen for a lot of these heroes so far. So, what are you going to get with Festus the Leechlord? So, description. He is a single model. He carries a toxin-laced plague staff to battle and can force foes of his pestilence position down the throats of his enemies. Then he's got his will stats, which are 4-inch range, 5+ save, 7 bravery and 6 wounds. Looking at his melee weapons, we've got the plague staff, which is 1-inch range, 2 attacks, force to hit, freeze wound, no rend and D3 damage. Lacking in rend there, however that is a bit of a theme with Nurgle. But the D3 damage is not bad, you know, it's like almost a double of a wizard attack, isn't it? Okay, so then going into his ability, so he's got healing elixirs. So at the start of your hero phase, you can heal 1 wound that has been allocated to Festus the Leechlord. So that means he doesn't need to roll dice, he just does it at the start of your hero phase. Not every hero phase, but your one. But still always good. That's him healing, well, what's that, up to 5 wounds in a game for free. So yeah, that's cool. And then his next ability is Delightful Bruise. So, Splendid Restoratives. At the start of your hero phase, you can pick a unit, friend or foe, within 1 inch of Festus the Leechlord. If you pick a friendly unit, roll a dice on a 2+, heal D3 wounds that have been allocated to that unit. If you pick an enemy unit, roll a dice on a 2+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Okay, so you have to be within 1 inch, so if you're going against an enemy unit, you have to be in combat with it. And bear in mind this guy's only got 6 wounds and a 5+ save, doesn't matter if he can heal. That's still not particularly good, so just bear that in mind. However, if you want to use it to keep this guy next to a Great Unclean One or something like that, just to keep him healing it, like a almost guaranteed D3 wounds, it's not a bad idea. Okay, then going into the next bit, and this is going to be magic. So Festus the Leechlord is wizard. He can attempt to cast 1 spell in your hero phase and attempt to unbind 1 spell in the enemy hero phase. He knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield and Curse of the Leper. So Curse of the Leper has casting value 7. Successfully cast, select a unit within 14 inches of the caster that is visible to them and subtract a 1 from save rolls for that unit for the rest of the battle. This spell cannot be cast on the same enemy unit more than once during the battle, so you can't just keep him fucking nerfing that enemy unit. But this is nice because there's not a lot of things in the game. There's more things now than there used to be, but there's still not a lot of things in the game outside of rend that can make the enemies save worse. So you've got the ability here, if you're going against a Stormcast army, it might be something you want to look at. And just generically, even if you're going against an army with, let's say, normally 5 up saves all around it, let's say heavy Demonet army, something like that, now you're making them 6 up save. Not bad either. So yeah, that's a good spell. Then going into his keywords, he's got Chaos Mortal Nurgle, Rotbringer Hero Wizard, Festus Leechlord. So if we look at him compared to the Harbinger of Decay, no, they're not the same, similar war scroll to compare. But if I was to compare them, the Harbinger of Decay is an extra 20 points, and he's only got one good thing about him, which is his command ability. It's a very good thing, but it's only one, in my opinion. Whereas Festus Leechlord has got his way to be able to heal that D3 wounds to a friendly unit, and he has got the Curse of the Leper spell, which I think is very good. So I would say Festus the Leechlord is better, but if we're really looking at points, like I say, he also might be something, if I have to cut out my list, I have to cut out my list, because he doesn't add too much synergy. He helps definitely towards the army, but it doesn't really add too much synergistics. If I was to compare him to, let's say, the Lord of Plagues, and I wanted to take a lot of BLIGHTKINGS, then the Lord of Plagues is going to be a better option than the Festus the Leechlord. But it's all, that's the lovely thing about it though. It's all how you want to build your list, what you really want to go for. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at is going to be the Lord of Afflictions. So the Lord of Afflictions is a bit bigger. He's mounted for a start. He's on one of those plague drones. And of course the Lord of Afflictions is going to be a leader. Now he's quite expensive. He's 220 points, so we've jumped the gun a lot now compared to what we've been looking at. Nearly 100 points more than what we've been looking at. So yeah, let's see what this guy does. So his description: a Lord of Afflictions is a single model who carries a Festus spike and rides a rotfly that attacks with its foul mouth parts and venomous sting and its dolorous tuskin tethered to its abdomen. Some Lords of Affliction go into battle with a incubatch grasped in one hand. Okay, so you can also fly. Looking at its wheel stance, it's got an 8-inch movement, 4+8 bravery, 10, 8 wounds. Fantastic bravery. Going into melee weapons, so I've got 4. So we've got the Festus spike, so this is 2-inch range, 3 attacks, freeze to hit, freeze to wound, -1 rend, D3 damage. Its foul mouth parts, it's got a 1-inch range, 2 attacks, freeze to hit, freeze to wound, no rend, 1 damage. Got the venomous sting, which is 1-inch range, 1 attack, force to hit, freeze to wound, -1 rend, D3 damage. And then the Dullison Tuskin, which I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing wrong. So 1-inch range, 1 attack, force to hit, freeze to wound, -2 rend, and 2 damage. Okay, so not too bad attacks there, but nothing amazing in particular. So going on to its abilities, we've got Disgusting Resilience, which is the 5-up ward save. We've also got Rotten Regeneration, so at the start of your hero phase you can heal 1 wound that has been allocated to this model. And then we've got Plague and Vector, so reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Rotbringer units while they are within 7 inches of this model. See, instant synergy there and a nice range of it as well. Okay, and then we've got the Incubatch, so in your hero phase, roll a dice for each unit, friend or foe, within 3 inches of this model. On a 2+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Nurgle units suffer 1 mortal wound on a 6+ instead. So it's in your hero phase, you roll a dice for each unit. So it doesn't say you can roll a dice, you do roll a dice. You don't have a choice in the matter. So the first turn you'll be rolling a dice for all of your units to see if they get affected by this, if they're obviously within range, which you do want them to be within range, so you can make them benefit from the Plague and Vector ability. But I suppose Plague Vector ability, that's a range of 7 compared to a range of 3 of this, and you're only going to do it to yourself on a 6, aren't you? Okay, so the next one we've got is Violent Discharge, which I've talked about before. It's a way for you to obviously do D3 mortal wounds to the enemy or heal D3 wounds to yourself. Okay, and then with the command ability, we've got Spearhead of Contagion. If this model is your army general, you can use this ability in your hero phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Pusgoyle Blightlord unit within 40 inches of this model and add 8 to that unit's move characteristic until your next hero phase. Okay, so if you wanted to go really big on the Pusgoyle Blightlords, instead of going really big on the BLIGHTKINGS, you want this guy as a general, because adding 8 inches to their movement, if you've got a big unit of them, you can get really, really close to the enemy, because what, plus an 8 to their movement, that'll make them, what, movement 16? And then if you give them, if you make sure they're in range of the bell, the great unclean one, that's another plus 3. So then they're 19-inch movement, and then if you make the contagion, will of corruption, the right one, you're getting plus 2. So then your movement 21. If you take the cogs in your army, now your movement 23. And then obviously you can charge, and you can get plus 2 to charge because the cogs there. If you're in range of a feculent narmal, then you're also getting the ability to run and charge. You can just basically go a crazy distance, which could really surprise your opponent. As the first time I fought against Nurgle, I was completely thrown off my feet by just how fast they were. I haven't read the book by then, haven't really read much of their rules for them. We're looking at about a year ago sort of thing when this book came out. And yeah, I was just surprised how I got charged in turn 1 by a load of plague drones it was. And yeah, and also, like I said, if I was doing Rotbringers, the Pusgoyle Blightlords would be the way I'd want to go, because they're like the BLIGHTKINGS, but they're cooler because they're mounted. So for me, this would be the one I'd go for. Is it the best thing to do competitively? Maybe not, but it's a really cool theme you could have going, and it's not bad. Okay, and then going into the keywords, we've got Chaos, Mortal, Demon, Nurgle, Rotbringer, Hero, Lord of Afflictions. So you've heard what I said. If you want to take loads of Pusgoyle Blightlords, then obviously this guy is your man. However, let's say you don't want to take him and you're just taking sort of generic Rotbringer army. This guy is going to give your Rotbringers the rerolls of hits for 1. That's pretty good. He is expensive. He's 220 points, but if you really want those rerolls, it's potentially worth it, because he's quite survivable. He's not a monster, so he benefits from cover and lookout sir and all these other things. Quite survivable, and he's healing that wound, and there's other ways for him to heal wounds and for him to have the disgusting resilience, to have a ward save and a 5-up. He can handle himself. He's not bad in combat. It's not amazing, but he's not bad. He's only got a lot of attacks with multiple damage on them and a fair bit of rend. So yeah, I would try this guy out, but I don't know if he would stick it in the list just because he's quite expensive. Right now, let's have a look to see what monsters the Rotbringers have in forms of their heroes. So the first things we're going to look at are the Maggotkin. Now there are 3 of these. The first one we're going to look at is a Blob Rotspawned. So these all named characters, so they can't take any artifacts, anything like that. And he is going to cost you 260 points for Rotspawn. Right, okay, now looking at Rotspawn, so firstly go into the description. Blob Rotspawn is a single model armed with a enormous harvestman scythe. He rides the maggot blight sprutter, which doses its victims with sprays of vile and bile, or tears them apart limb from limb with its monstrous claws. Sounds like a lovely creature. Okay, then going into its will stats, so you have a 10-inch movement to start, but as all of these are monsters, it will get weaker over time. 4+ save, a bravery 9 and 12 wounds. Yeah, not bad stats for a 260 point monster. Going into its weapons, we've got 3 here. We've got 1 missile and 2 melee. So the first missile, a bile sputers, a vile bile. That's a lot of biles. Right, 12-inch range, D3 attacks, 4's a hit, 2's a wound, but that is a star, so that will get harder to wound after a while. -2 rend, D3 damage. Yeah, pretty good shooting attack. Random as all hell, but if you get lucky, you can do quite a bit of damage with that. And the melee weapon, so we've got the Harvestman's Scythe. This is 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3's hit, 3's win, -1 rend, 2 damage. Not too bad. And then we've got Bile Splatter's Monstrous Claws, which are 5 attacks, 4's hit, 2's wound, -1 rend, and 1 damage. Yeah, it would have been nice if that was 2 damage, if I'm honest. This guy's costing 260 points, so it's not costing that much, but 2 damage would have been really nice there, I think. Okay, then going into its abilities, so the first one is a Demon Flies. And what this does is at the start of your hero phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 7 inches of Blobe Rotspawned. On a 4+, subtract 1 from hit rolls for the unit until your next hero phase. Okay, that's quite interesting, because usually it's like, you know, you take 1 mortal wound or something, but taking a -1 away from their hit rolls, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's in its range, so yeah, it's a big bubble, because obviously that's not wholly within, that's just within at this moment of time. So that's all pretty good there for him. And this guy's sort of going to be... okay, so he's the wizard one out of these. So he can sit back a little bit more. However, to get the most out of him, you do want him to be quite far forward. So he's going to be sort of stuck in there in the fight to get the most out of him. Okay, so the next one we've got is a Wind Speaker Bell. So subtract 1 from the casting rolls of enemy wizards while they are within 40 inches of Blobe Rotspawned. Okay, so just another reason for them to be further up the field, getting stuck in there. Yep, that's cool. Especially how so many armies now. It's not just so many armies have access to magic. Sorry, dispossessed. However, the majority of armies in Age of Sigmar do have access to magic. And it's not just the fact they do have access to it. So many of them now rely on it for their synergies. Flesh Eater Courts are a prime example of how much the synergy of their army to make it the most combat effectiveness relies on magic to get those certain spells off. If we look at the spell for the Archer Regent as an example, or the one from the Abhorrent Ghoul-King on a Terrorgeist, that really needs to get his spell off. Unholy Vitality, I think it's called off the top of my head, which allows when you Flesh Eater Court units to basically get a 5-up death save. That is a massive, especially if I put that on a unit of 12 flares, just makes it that much harder to get rid of. Now, that Abhorrent Ghoul-King on Terrorgeist, as an example here, is more than likely not going to get any benefits to his casting unless we have a few examples, like if he's next to Arcane Terrain. Also, if he has got one of the command traits or artifacts that gives him +1 to cast. So if you look at it like that way, then just from the Flesh Eater Court book, he could get +2 to cast. However, what you've got to remember is that Flesh Eater Courts, you're taking Abhorrent Ghoul-Kings on Terrorgeist, the majority of them, not all of them in lists, but the majority of those lists are going to be Gristlegore or another one of the Grand Courts. So if that is the case and they are in a Grand Court, they can't choose what artifact they have, they just get given one. They're not bad the ones that get given, however, they're nothing to do plus into casting. So that brings us all the way back to this ability, Wind Speaker, because that means that if you're playing against Flesh Eater Court army and you're making their, if you're nullifying their magic, you're going to be doing a massive, shall we say, stab in their arse with the amount of pain you're going to cause them. Because with my Flesh Eater Courts, I rely so much on getting the magic, and you can even take a Corpse Cart for Flesh Eater Courts to get +1 to cast. That's like, Corpse Cart is 80 points, I want to say, and that's 80 points just to get +1 to casting. Right, this guy is taking it away, making it so that Corpse Cart doesn't really need to be there. It's a waste of points. Just like that, just takes away and neuters your opponent. Like I always say, debuffing your enemy is always a lot better than enhancing your own abilities, in my personal opinion, as you can always enhance your own abilities and the enemy would expect it. But if you debuff the enemy is not always prepared for that. So looking at Blobe Rotspawned so far, his abilities of Demon Flies and Wind Speaker Bells definitely do the trick there. Okay, then going into his last thing, this is magic. So Blobe Rotspawned is a wizard. He attempts to cast a 1 spell in your hero phase and attempt to unbind 1 spell in the enemy hero phase. He knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Miasma of Pestilence spell. I think that's pronounced right. So, Miasma of Pestilence. Miasma of Pestilence has casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within 14 inches of the caster that is visible to them. Until your next hero phase, roll a dice at the end of each phase in which any wounds or mortal wounds were allocated to that unit and not negated. On a 2+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Ooh, okay, so we look at it as... Okay, even if you just have it as the combat phase, as that's the more than likely the phase is going to go off, that is, what, on a 2-up D3 more wounds on top? Okay, the other thing is that if you do this spell in the hero phase, obviously, and then you do another spell, I don't know, like an Arcane Bolt or something along those lines, to make that enemy unit suffer a mortal wound, or wounds in that hero phase, they're going to take D3 on a 2-up. The shooting phase, this guy, with his Bile Spurter of Bile, puking, at that enemy unit. That's another good chance of doing some wounds to that enemy unit. And then on a 2-up, they take D3 mortal wounds. And then the combat phase, more likely do damage to them. On a 2-up, take D3 mortal wounds. So this is, at first, it's a bit like, maybe you get D3 mortal wounds on a 2-up. But actually, if you really sort of, there's not even tailoring your list around it at all, really. It's just a case of, if you just play this model right, you can quite often get off. And yeah, this guy can't cast 2 spells, so he can't do an arcane bolt and then do this one. But you can always get another wizard to do it, even just like the little sorcerer we talked about. Just do a few more wins with him and just to trigger it. Or you can use one of the command abilities that we talked about that allow you to do mortal wounds. Okay, so yeah, I think that's quite cool. And then looking at his keywords, we've got Chaos, Mortal, Nurgle, Rotbringer, Monster, Hero, Wizard, and Blobe, Rotspawned. So how do I summarise them? I think that this also might be the case with the other Maggotkin that we're going to look at. But I think Blobe, Rotspawned, he's an interesting character because there's a lot of heroes and monsters that you can put on the table. You compare their stats and all that sort of thing, and you can say, well, this isn't worth its points for this reason, and that is better for its points in this reason. So you would never take this one. You never take Model A because you can take Model B, and Model B is just more effective for its points. However, if we compare Blobe Rotspawned, he's a little bit more interesting. He's got quite a few specific things. He hasn't really got any abilities that are just all-rounders, shall we say, good. He is mainly there for debuffing the enemy, which I do like. Also, the model's cool. I do like the wizard one. I don't know if he's my favourite out of the Rotspawned, but he may possibly be, to be honest, because I always do like having a wizard. It's just that extra ability to be able to cast a Law from Nurgle, one of those spells, or an endless spell, or just a realm spell, just something like that, or just even just Mystic Shield, Arcane Bolt. Not so much Arcane Bolt these days, but Mystic Shield. It's just really, really useful. And he's 260 points. Is he worth that? I would honestly have to playtest him to think if he is worth that. I can't just say off reading his rules that he is worth that, because it does seem quite a bit, but he is a 12 wound monster for 260 points. Maybe that makes him worth it, but then again, maybe not. It's one of those, like I say, you would have to play test it. You would have to find out. I don't think this guy's a steal at 260 points. Let's just say that. Especially how he can't take any artifacts and command traits. If he wasn't a named character and he could take artifacts and command traits, then I'd say that he is worth 260 points. Because he can't, I think play testing is needed to see if he is worth it. If you've got this model and you're yet to try it out. Let me know how you get on. Or if you have got this model and you do play around with it, let me know similarly as well. So then we can all sort of benefit from knowledge. So I say he's cool and he's not bad, but is he worth the points? That's the question. We're then going to look at Morbidex twiceborn, I believe it's pronounced. So again, he's going to cost you 260 points. He's a leader, he's a behemoth, and also he's unique, so you can only have one in, your pitch battle games. Of course, it's just for match play for that sort of rule, and you can't take any artifacts, command traits like the other named characters. Okay, so looking at his war scroll, the first thing we're going to look at, of course, is going to be the description. So he is a single model. He is armed with a deadly Flesh Reaper scythe and rides the benignant Maggotkin triple tongue, which snatches its victims up with a slavish tongue or gores them with its monstrous claws. Okay, so going into its will stats. Now, they are slightly different to the Rotspawned we just looked at, because the movement is the same. Size 10 does get weaker when it takes damage, of course. But the difference here, we've got a 3+ save. So not a 4+ save like we've just seen, a 3+ save. And bear in mind, this guy is the same points and the same, practically kit as the last one. It makes a good comparison. So yeah, he's got a 3+ save, bravery 9, that's the same, and wounds 12, that's the same. Then going into his weapons, he's got 3. He's got 1 missile weapon and 2 melee weapons. So the first missile weapon is the slavish tongue. So range 6 inches, 3 attacks, 3's to hit, 2's to wound, but it will get a worse to wound characteristic as damage goes on because it's a star, -1 rend, and 1 damage. So an alright shooting attack, not great, but not bad. Not as good as the shooting attack we saw for the last one though. Important note there. Then going to the melee weapons, we've got the Flesh Reaper scythe. So this is a 2-inch range, 5 attacks, 3's to hit, 3's to wound, -1 rend, and 2 damage. And that is better than the scythe which the Rotspawned had. So the monstrous claws is a 3-inch range, starts with 5 attacks, force hit, 2 swim, master rend, 1 damage, that's the same. And then going into the abilities, we've got Lord of the Nurglings. So at the start of your hero phase, you can pick one friendly Nurgling unit within 7 inches of Morbidex twiceborn and add 1 model to it. That's cool, that's a nice ability, presume you don't pay points for that. So that is nice to see. If you're wondering which one this guy is riding those bigger, like, you know, Maggotkin beasts, it's the one with basically the Nurgling head, so that's why he's the, you know, Lord of Nurglings, does make sense. And Nurglings are such a pain to get rid of. They're not, like, really difficult to clear off the board or anything like that, but you just got to dedicate quite a bit to them, more than you would like to make sure they go, otherwise they just basically regenerate. So by just helping those units from not dying, you can really, like, use them to chaff things up, you know, tie things down. That thing's just that a little bit better. Okay, and then the next one we've got is Malicious Mites. So add 1 to wound rolls of a friendly Nurgling units while they are within 7 inches of Morbidex twiceborn. So already we're looking at this guy is pretty good in your demon army if you want to run a lot of Nurglings. And not even just a demon army, just a Maggotkin of Nurgle army in general. But this guy is sort of basically tailored for heavy Nurgling lists. Okay, so then going into the next ability is Nurgle's Rot. So at the start of your hero phase, roll a dice for each unit, friend or foe, within 3 inches of any unit with this ability. On the roll of a 6, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Units with the Nurgle keyword are unaffected with this ability. I mean, it's an ability to take it, but on a roll of 6, yeah, you will get a 6 in a game, you know, you more than likely will. Because this guy is going to be in combat. Don't keep this guy out of combat. He wants to be in combat, you know, obviously, because this guy's a combat hero on a monster. But this ability, so you should be rolling for it a fair bit, but it's not going to come off that much to the point where if it comes off so little, you might forget about it, which you don't want to do. But it's also at the start of your hero phase, so you've got to remember at the start of your hero phase, not like I'm going to cast a spell and then do this. This has to be done first. If there's a list of things that at the start of your hero phase, which are for you to do, you can pick which order you do them in, but this would have to be one of them. Okay, so the next one we have got is Repugnant Regrowth. So roll a dice in your hero phase and a 4+, heal 1 wound that has been allocated to Morbidex twiceborn. On a 6, heal D3 wounds instead. Okay, so this guy's basically got a 50% chance of healing a wound, and then he's got a chance of healing D3 as well. Quite slim, but if he's got that, it's really nice to try and keep him alive, especially with his free up save. And even just getting that, healing that 1 wound in turn, if you can, on that 4-up is good. Yeah, so then going to keywords, we've got Chaos, Mortal, Nurgle, Rotbringer, Monster, Hero, and Morbidex twiceborn. So this guy, if you're running quite a few Nurglings, take him. He works really well with them, definitely. If you're not running them, is he better than the last one we looked at? I would personally say no. And that's because I think the last one adds more to your army by debuffing the enemy. And that's why I'd go with him. Also, I prefer that model. I think the Sorcerer is really quite cool. And then that is going to leave us on to the last one of those sort of Maggotkin, which is going to be Gutrot, a Demon Spew. So he is 260 points. Again, he's a leader. He's a behemoth and he's unique, so you can't have a command trait, artifact, those sorts of things. And then going into the description, so here's a single model armed with his trusty rot axes. He rides his steed Whippermore, which seeks the victims with its grasping tongue to drag them into its fang-lined maw or crush them with its monstrous claws. So going into its will stats, so they are the same as the last one. So it's got a 10-inch movement, 3+ save, 9 bravery and 12 wounds. Going into its weapons, we've got 3, we've got 1 missile weapon and 2 melee weapons, so the same we've seen for the last 2 of these. So the first one is the missile weapon, and this is a Whippermore's grasping tongue. So it's got a 6-inch range, 1 attack, 3's hit, 2's to wound, but again it will get harder to wound because it's like a star for its wound characteristic. -1 rend and D6 damage. So that's a nice little twist in the end to it. It looks like it's not going to be a good attack, and then D6 damage. Yeah, that's cool. That's basically the zombie dragon attack, apart from it's not -3 rend, it's -1, and it can't like automatically hit. But apart from that, it's pretty much the zombie dragon attack. So that is that's very good. You know, practically it's the same. But yes, it's not a bad shooting attack there. Short range though, you know, obviously. And we've got melee weapons. So the first one is the Rotaxis, and this is a 2-inch range, 5 attacks, 3 hit, 3 wound, last from end, 1 damage. Not gonna lie, really disappointed that. Thought it's gonna be 2 damage. The next one we've got is the Whipplemaw's Monstrous Claws, which is 3-inch range. It starts with 5 attacks like it does with the last ones. 4 hit, 2 wound, last from end, 1 damage. And then going into the abilities, so the first one is Acid Ichor. So roll a dice each time you allocate a wound to this model in the combat phase, and it is not negated. On a 4+, the attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound after all of its attacks have been made. Yeah, that's pretty good, especially this guy gets attacked by a big horde unit, something like that. It's got a big base, a lot of things to pile around, and then you can just chuck a lot of stuff back at the enemy, like, you know, especially on a 4-up, because that's pretty easy to do. What, 50% of all the damage? So that is very good there, because he may die in combat, but if he does, at least he's going to be doing some damage back to the enemy, and, you know, the damage would be, what, 6 on average? So, yeah, that's good. This guy could get shot off the board, though, and you wouldn't benefit from it, but, yeah, it's just one of those things. But, no, nice ability. Okay, the next ability we've got is Fury of Half-Blood. So, add D3 to the attack characteristic of Gutrot's Demon Shrews or Rotaxes if he made a charge move in the same turn. And adding D3 is still good, but only 1 damage is a little bit, you know, and I know this guy is a 260-point monster, so it's not that expensive, but he is a named character, so I would like it to be better. And the next one we've got is the Rotaxes. So at the end of the combat phase, roll a dice for each enemy model that was allocated any wounds caused by Rotaxes in the combat phase and was not slain. On a 4+, that model suffers 1 mortal wound. Okay, so if you split your attacks, that can be quite good to go and do more wounds to the enemy, but still not, you know, like it to be 2 damage. Okay, so the next ability we have got is going to be the command ability, and this is Fester and Rot. So you can use this command ability in your hero phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Nurgle unit within 14 inches of Oghart's Demon Sprue. Reroll failed wound rolls for that unit until your next hero phase. Yeah, it's not bad. It's a way to get those reroll wound rolls, isn't it? Even if you just put it on himself or something. You know, is it the best command ability in the book? I wouldn't say so, but it's not bad. It's not one of those command abilities you're never going to do, more than likely. You might do it, especially if you've got a few command points knocking around. You just want to do some damage to the enemy. Okay, so going into the keywords, we've got Chaos, Mortal, Nurgle, Rotbringer, Monster, Hero, and Oghart's Demon Sprue, if that is pronounced correctly. So, right, comparing the 3 of them. To be honest, my favourite one is going to be below Rotspawned out of them. He's the only wizard. Yes, he can only cast 1 spell, but still wizard. I love his pure attack. I just love the idea of just vomiting and doing that much damage to the enemy. Yeah, it's swingy, but it's cool. And he's not that bad in combat and stuff either. Like, this guy's good to get up there, like we said, to make the enemy get debuffed. That's the other reason I like him, to debuff the enemy. So, yeah, out of those 3, Blobe is going to be my favourite for sure. The Rotspawned wins this one, in my own opinion. And that leaves us on to the main star of this episode right at the end. And this, of course, is going to be the one and only. And when I say that, I mean there are 3 of them, but they're collectively known as the Glottkin. So, the Glottkin, it's 1 model. It's 420 points. It's a bleeder, behemoth, and like we say, it's a unique character, so no artifacts, no command traits, and only 1 allowed in your army, of course. So going into the description, it is a single model, and a Guruk Glot is a massive mass of flesh attacking with a flailing tentacle and scooping helpless victims into his lamprey maw. His brothers, Efrek and Otto, ride upon his festering, boil-encrusted shoulders. Efrek casts foul spells, while Otto attacks with his poison-slick scythe and unleashes a pestilence torrent of corrosive filth from his swollen gut. Okay, so looking at the wheel stats here. So he's got an 8-inch movement, and that will get weaker over time because it's got a damage table. It's got a 4+ save, bravery 9 and 18 wounds. So the big part of the wheel stat is going to be that 18 wounds for sure. Okay, and the next thing we're going to look at is the weapons. So we have got 4 in total, so quite a lot here. The first one is going to be the missile weapon. This is Pestilent Torrent. So a 12-inch range, 1 attack, 3 to hit, 4 to wound, -2 rend, and starts at 2d6 damage, which is really good. Yeah, the range is a bit short, but 12-inch range is still not bad, especially where it's not bad to hit into wound characteristic. And if you get that through the -2 rend, probably the opponent's going to not be able to save against that, or if they do, it's going to be hard for them to. And then 2d6 damage could be, as often, is really disappointing, but if not, that's a crazy amount of damage you're going to be doing to your opponent. So going into the melee weapon, so we've got Gurik's Failing Tentacles. This is a 3-inch range, and it's got 6 attacks to start, 4 to hit, 2 to wound, -2 rend, 2 damage. Yeah, not bad. The next one is Gurik's Lamprey Amour. So this is 2-inch range, 1 attack, 3 to hit, 2 to wound, -1 rend, D3 damage. And then the next one is Otto's Poison Slick Scythe. So it's 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend, D3 damage. Not bad attacks. Little bit disappointing after reading the missile weapon. The missile weapon is really good, and then it gets a bit lackluster, but not bad. But this guy is not. It can take on like his fair share in combat for sure, but he's not going to be deleting every unit in the game, shall we say? Okay, then going into his abilities. The first one is going to be a Mountain of Loathsome Flesh. So roll a dice for each enemy that is within 1 inch of this model. After this model completes a charge move on a 4+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. That's cool because it's not like it's just a 1 mortal wound. It's D3. So yeah, that's good there. Next ability is Blessing of Nurgle. So at the start of your hero phase, you can heal D3 wounds that have been allocated to this model. And like we said, there's a lot of ways for you to be able to heal those wounds in this army. So being able to heal an extra D3 as well, yeah, really good, just built into it. Just remember, it's at the start of your hero phase. So like we said with like a previous ability, it has to be at the start. So yeah, if you've got quite a few abilities that say it has to happen at the start, then do them what order you like. But if you say cast a spell, which isn't something you do at the start of your hero phase, and then you go, oh, and I want to do this as well, you know, technically that's not how the rule works. So just bear that in mind, because there's so many things that, I don't know if it's just me, but it might be you as well, but I personally, I read a rule and it says like, you know, at the start of your hero phase, but then when it comes to the game, sometimes, not all the times, especially when I'm new to the army, sometimes do this, I would just, in my head, I would just presume it says in the hero phase, not at the start. So there's a big difference there, because like I say, you're playing like competitively. If you forget it at the start and it gets to the end of your hero phase, you think, oh, I'll quickly go back and do that. Technically, you shouldn't really, and it is up to the discretion of your opponent if you are allowed to do it. Right, and then the next ability is going to be Horrific Opponent. So at the start of your combat phase, roll 2d6 for each enemy unit within 7 inches of this model. If the roll is greater than that unit's bravery characteristic, subtract 1 from its hit rolls for that unit in the same combat phase. Cool. It's a way to be able to subtract that from the hit rolls. And yeah, not bad. I mean, you have to beat their bravery characteristic. So obviously some armors going to be better than others, but play against Deep, for example, bravery 6, you put the average to get that off. And then the next ability we've got is magic. So of course, the brother on here, who is the wizard, gets to attempt to cast 2 spells in your hero phase and attempts to unbind 1 spell the enemy hero phase. He knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Fleshy Abundant spells. So something to bear in mind there, guys, is that he can only unbind 1 spell, and I know I've just said that, but a lot of heroes that you read out there, they can cast 2 spells, they can unbind 2 spells. Similarly, for as many spells they can cast, they can unbind that many. That's usually how it works. But not for this guy, can only unbind 1. So just to prevent you from making a mistake in the future, just remember that. Okay, so the next thing we have got is going to be, obviously, his Fleshy Abundant, because we know what Mystic Shield and Arcane Bolt does. So Fleshy Abundant has a casting value of 7. It successfully casts, pick a friendly unit within 14 inches of that caster and is visible to them. Add 1 to the wounds characteristic of all models in that unit until your next hero phase. At the start of your next hero phase, the unit's wounds characteristic is reduced to the original value. Note that this can result in the model that has been allocated wounds being slain. Yeah, that's not bad. You know, it just makes your units that more survivable for that turn, doesn't it? So yeah, I mean, like, it could mean that they're slain the next turn because they say, I don't know, they're 2-win model. They're what? Chaos Warrior because it's a friendly unit, isn't it? So yeah, it could be a Chaos Warrior unit that's taken, I don't know what, 2 damage, so it should normally be dead, but because of that extra wound it's got, technically it's got 3, but by the time you lose the effects of that spell in your next hero phase, he results to go back to his original wounds characteristic, which is 2, and then that means that the 2 damage he has already taken will kill him. And that is how that works. So the next thing we're going to look at is the command ability, and this is Lords of Nurgle. So you can use this command ability in your hero phase. If you do, then until your next hero phase, add 1 to the attack characteristics of any melee weapons used by friendly Nurgle units 14 inches of this model. So yeah, not a bad range there as well. That's good. And then going into keywords, Chaos Mortal Nurgle, Rotbringer, Monster, Hero, Wizard, the glottkin. So the big guy, the glottkin, is he worth it? Right, firstly, he's a fantastic model if you're a Nurgle fan. So get him if you don't already have. He'll be great fun to paint with, you know, especially maybe use contrast or spray and dry brushing with washes, you know, something along those lines. But he is a very, very big and special model for the Maggotkin of Nurgle. Now, is he worth his points? I don't strictly know, to be completely honest with you, because like I say, I haven't played with him. I think maybe he is a bit too expensive in points without, you know, lying to you. However, I don't think he's really bad for his points. Again, like the last one's looked at, I would need to test it out for myself, see if it's worth it. I do see quite a lot of Nurgle lists do run him though, so you know, obviously that is a sign, which is cool. And he is a big, brutish model, like I said, and he's not bad. You know, I'd just like to say that he's not bad. Is it worth all his points? In all honesty, I cannot know the answer to that because I've never used him before. However, if there's anyone out there who plays Maggotkin of Nurgle or has played against them a few times, please let us know in the group so we can help update the others on the knowledge. And with that, my friends, it brings us to the end of another video. So this is a 160-minute long video, roughly, probably going to be 170 minutes by the time I finish, of the Rotbringers for Maggotkin of Nurgle. Now, that doesn't mean that you can only take Rotbringers in the army. You can mix everything like you want, but I just wanted to better organise the videos by breaking them down into those sort of, you know, racial categories, if you like. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe and comment down below. That is all absolutely free for you guys to do so, and massively does help the channel out, and it's great to see you guys' thoughts. It means we can have a chat about it and really sort of learn from each other's experience about what we think about certain units, lore, tactics, etc. And if you'd like to support the channel a step further, I've now got a Patreon account where you can find the link in the description down below. It's a great way for you guys to support the channel. All the money that goes in that goes straight towards the channel. Anything helps, like even just $1, really does go a long way for me to be able to provide things to the channel, such as a camera, a better microphone, things like just getting battle tomes and stuff so I can review the armies, and also to justify time. I've also bought something for the channel, which I'll be reviewing in a soon to come video. Nothing really big and massive, but something that's going to help me do some more live videos, shall we say. So I look forward to showing you guys that sometime soon. And, you know, you can greatly thank patrons because they have put money towards this. So it's absolutely awesome. It's nothing massive and huge, but it's something that's a nice step towards some videos. Okay, guys, so like I say, if you would like to support me, check out on Patreon. The 4 people who do support me on Patreon, that are Tier 2, which are my vampires, and these people donate at least $5 a month to me, which massively helps, like the guys just mentioned. And their names are Max, Martin, Simon and Carl. So again, guys, thank you very much for your donation. Like I say, I've already started to see the fruit of it now. Like, it's just something small, but nice to see something you'll be getting back, like to help with some of the live videos I'm going to be doing. And guys, honestly, if you can't support me on Patreon, that's absolutely fine. I'm just really glad you came and checked out this video today, and most importantly, I hope you enjoyed it. So remember, guys, until next time, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.